My car won't start. I've replaced the starter, the battery, the cables, the coil, the fuel pump, the distributor cap, the rotor. I even put electronic ignition in it, and it still won't start. Well, here in the Moss Motors Technical Support Department, we get calls similar to that from frustrated owners of classic British cars. These owners have been trying to fix something in their car. They can't diagnose the problem. They can't even find the problem. Electric issues, overheating issues, no start issues, and hydraulic issues are at the top of the pile. Of course, often the owner has spent a lot of money. He's been throwing parts at the car one after the other, hoping that one of the parts he's thrown at this car will be the right one and it will fix it. And you know, that might eventually work. But it's expensive. It takes time. Well, after all this frustration, somebody might ask, well, is there a secret to success? Is there a secret way to do this? And the answer is yes, there is a secret to success. The secret to success in diagnosing these little cars is often a cup of coffee. That's right. Not a wrench, not a screwdriver, not a parts catalog, a cup of coffee. In other words, step back from the car, invest a few minutes to think. Now, along with your coffee, you might consider a shop manual and perhaps access to the internet. Let's see why. An axiom this technician likes to quote is, when you know how something works, you know what's wrong with it when it doesn't work. That bears repeating. When you know how something works, you know what's wrong with it when it doesn't work. And isn't that what we want? Don't we want to know what's wrong with it? Let me give you an illustration, an example. A short time ago, this technician received a phone call from a frustrated owner of one of these little cars, and the individual said, my left turn signals work, my right turn signals don't work. I replaced the flasher in my car, and it's the same. The left side works, the right side doesn't work. So let's examine that. We'll use that as our test case here. This illustration represents how the flashers are in most of the cars that we have. The power comes in, goes through the turn signal flasher. It's the only one in the car, by the way, through a switch into either the lights on the left or the lights on the right. So the individual who had the car, who didn't understand that, took a look at his car and he said, well, I've got lights on the left side of my car. They flash, but the lights on my right side don't flash. He says, I have a flashing problem on the right side of my car. I guess I must need a flasher. So he went and put a flasher in. And of course, it didn't work. It made sense from his point of view, but it was the wrong decision. Why? Think about it again. Let's make sure we know how it works. Electricity enters, goes through the flasher. Remember, it's the only flasher in the car. It goes to the switch. The switch decides whether it's going to go to the left side of the car or the right side of the car. It goes out through the wires and goes to the lamps. There's 3 on one side, front, back, and the dashboard, 3 on the other, the same thing. Okay, now, we're technicians. We're thinking. We're trying to reason on this, and we know how it works. And we say, well, you know what? If the electricity comes through this flasher, remember it's the only one, through this switch into these lights, and these lights work, this flasher works. I don't have to go and replace the flasher. The flasher has to work. It's the only one on the car, and this side flashes just fine. It can't be the flasher. So we can step back and take another look and even be a little more specific. In fact, we can say, I know that everything feeding power down to the flasher, through the flasher, to the switch, at least this half of the switch, all these wires and these bulbs are all good. I don't have to worry about any of that. I can say, you know what's wrong? Only one of 3 things. Either these bulbs, which are supposed to be flashing and they're not, these wires which feed them, or the other half of the switch which is involved in getting them to be coming on. So how can we figure it out? Well, we can say, okay, now I've got these 3 possibilities. What am I going to do? This technician would look and say, well, I lost 3 bulbs. Is it possible to lose 3 bulbs in one sunny afternoon and have them all go out all by themselves at the same time? It could happen, but it would really be rare. It'd be really, really unusual. So this technician wouldn't even bother with that. If I had any doubt at all, what I would do is I would pick one of the bulbs, the easiest one to get to, remove the bulb and put my test light or my voltmeter in and see if there's current in there when the turn signals turn on the right side of the car. But normally I wouldn't even bother with that because I don't think I would lose all 3 at once. Then we say, well, maybe it's a wiring issue because there's wires feeding these 3. Well, that's true. And wires don't go bad in the middle. They go bad at connections. So let's see, I've got a connection. There's connections here. If this connection were bad, I would lose this light. I'd lose 1 light, but I'm missing 3. So that can't be it. This one, if this one was bad, I'd lose this light. That would be 1, but I've lost 3. That can't be it. This one feeds these 2. I would lose 2 lights, but I've got 3 missing, so that can't be it. There's only one place where all 3 lights come together to get fed off the one wire coming out of the switch. It's that connection right there. Now, before I climb under the dashboard, I'm going to think about it. Have I been up under the dashboard lately? Have I done anything in there that might have touched this connection, might have broken it free? Did it get somehow damaged in something that I did? And if I say, no, I haven't been up there, I'm really thinking there's not a problem with this. It's under the dashboard. It didn't get wet in the rain. So again, it's possible, but unlikely. That leaves me with the switch, specifically one half of the switch, because we know the other side works just fine. And remember, if we know how this switch works, we know what's wrong with it when it doesn't work. So let's go and see. I'm going to use my pocket knife to demonstrate what happens. Inside the switch, there's a bar, and she's sitting like this. And I, for example, if I put my left turn signals on, what's going to happen is inside a little bridge is going to form like that, and it's going to connect between the point where the power comes in and the point where it goes off to the left side of the car. If I put my right turn signals on, inside the little bar will move, and when it does, I'll have power between where the power goes in and where it goes to the right side of my car. Now I know how this works. If I were to disconnect the switch, take it off the dashboard, take it off the steering column, and access the wires on the back, they have 3 wires. Power coming in, one side of the car, the other side of the car, that's easy. I know this side works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of wire, I've shaped this like a horseshoe, I've stripped the ends off, and I know that from here to here is the left side. I've got my key on, the switch is off. I want to do the work, not the switch. And if I jump between where the power comes in and where it goes to the left side of the car and do that, these lights are going to come on and they're going to blink. They're supposed to. And I know they will because they already were doing that before. And I just want to prove that my test is accurate. This is how you do it. And when they blink, yeah, it works. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to the other side and do it over there. When I do this, where the power comes in and goes to the right side of the car, only one of 2 possible things can happen. Either they're not going to work, which means I better check my bulbs or check this connection, or they're going to work. If they work, which I suspect in this case is exactly what's going to happen, what does it tell us? When I do the switch's job for her, like that, and these lights come on, that means if I do it, it works. If I leave the switch to do it, it doesn't work. Where's the problem? It's in the switch. Okay, now if we've got that, we might think, okay, now I think I've got a hold of this. This technician took another call a short time after the first one, and the fellow said, it was very similar. He said, the lights on one side of the car blink, the lights on the other side of the car don't blink, and he said, I changed the fuse, and it still doesn't work the way it's supposed to. Well, if you've grasped what we've talked about here, you'd right off the bat, you should have said, wait a minute, no, that can't be that. No, we'd say the fuse feeds this, feeds this, feeds this, feeds this. If he's got power on one side, the fuse has to be good. Neither you nor I would ever bother with the fuse because we know it's good. And if we've grasped that, you understand the concept. Now, an individual might say, well, okay, now I understand it, but we're talking about turn signals, and you've got turn signals here. What happens if I need to learn about something else, another system, how it works, so I can know what's wrong with it when it doesn't work? I mentioned the internet. I've got my iPad, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to YouTube. And when YouTube comes up, there's usually a little magnifying glass at the top, which serves as a kind of a search. And I'm going to go MOSS space MOTORS space. And let's say that somebody said, you should check the float level in your carburetors because your car's not running well. So I've got MOS motors, and I'm just going to go float, FLOAT, and enter. And the first video pops up is from MOS Motors. We touch on it. And it tells us right here, carburetor float, how to adjust the level. And in a moment, when she finishes downloading the video, it will be right there. We can play it, and it will tell us. In fact, we have at Moss over 100 videos showing you how various parts of the car work and how the systems function. They're there. So that's a lot of information. Also, Barney Gaylord has a site called mgaguru.com. John Twist has a site called universitymotorsltd.com. Both sites are rich with information that will help you. So the next time the car has a problem, instead of throwing parts at the car, step back. Learn how the systems work. If you don't know, if you don't have access to the data right there at your fingertips, videos such as the ones that we carry here, the ones that I mentioned also on the other parts of the internet are all there to help you. You'll be able to figure out what's wrong, fix it right the first time, and save money. Thank you.